Hello and welcome to Global Morning here on Global Television. We are in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. And as always, we are delighted and excited to welcome you to the program. I'm Uyi Agmofwegbe. My colleague who was humbled by events around Abuja yesterday, interestingly made it to the show today.
Yeah, good morning, Uyi, and good morning, Nigeria. Yeah, it's a beautiful day.
So today you're not as humbled as the protest made yesterday.
Well, you said something. Well, I don't know if I want to say that. But it was such an incident yesterday.
It was.
I don't know how Nigerians are reacting to it, but we said that Sowore has been defeated. he was arrested. Oh, no, he wasn't arrested.
No, he wasn't arrested.
He was chased by the police.
Yeah, he was. Yes, of course. The video is out there.
Conversations around his running away.
Right. What are your thoughts about that race? You think it's an Olympic move?
Well, they say it's better to run and fight
another day.
Yeah.
Okay, that will die while trying to fight.
They said he who dies in the battle is what do they call it? They say a hero.
Right.
But he who runs away from the battle and fights another day is a legend.
Okay, so she's a legend.
So he's a legend according to the social media narrative.
Coming from yesterday's event.
Yeah, coming from yesterday's event. So you have to be a legend, that's be a hero. According to
and he chose the path of the legend.
Of course.
All right.
He's coming back.
Okay, say hello to the legend. Okay, so Priscilla, it's good to have you on the show. Yesterday was quite a humbling experience for most of us. You know, when I got to a point on my way to work in the morning, this was just before 7 a.m., a few minutes away from 7 a.m., and then the leader of the police team was shouting at the top of his voice, telling everybody, look, for those of you who are civil servants, you have nothing to worry about. The police hierarchy in the country has already notified the head of the civil service of the Federation about this stop and search exercise and how it will impact your schedule of work for today. Therefore, there's nothing for you to fret over. You can go back home. Your bosses understand. And really, that was what happened. I saw soldiers practically begging to be let through. And the police people said, look, mandates or orders very clear is to stay here, do stop and search. And it was so thorough. Every vehicle, I mean, literally every vehicle will pull up. All the passengers or occupants will disembark. Thorough search will be done, trunk, everything else. Once that vehicle is cleared, the other vehicle comes through. You know, it was one vehicle at a time. I understand at several points you had that. Of course, Global Television brought our viewers all of those updates yesterday, including footage of the traffic coming from Nasarawa State into Abuja and all of that. But there were several lessons that stuck out for myself and maybe a handful of Nigerians yesterday, which is the fact that protest is not something we pray for, whatever the motivation for the protest is, because it's going to grind the economy down. There's nothing you can do about that. We may say, yes, it didn't affect most other states in the country. It was just basically Abuja, some reports say, and then some parts of the southeast. But we also can only imagine how much of money we had lost in terms of business yesterday, all right, productivity and all of that, how much individuals had been affected, households, schools, and all of that. I saw school buses that were trapped in bad traffic yesterday. But I found consolation knowing that a good number of those school buses were on their way to go pick up PPOs. They had not yet picked up, all right, those PPOs. So I think it was better because it will give parents and guardians the option of saying, well, hold on a second, it's just one day. Can my children not stay at home today? And let's sit this out and see what happens. As against if those PPOs, those children had been stuck in traffic.
Well, incidentally, most schools are on their midterm.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. So it was more like a blessing in disguise.
Of course it was, yeah. But then, it's a brand new day, and
right.
We don't know what to expect from today, considering everything that played out yesterday.
But the convener said the protest will be moved to another day, but we hope that's not today or any other day going forward.
Yeah.
I know there are people who thought this was just going to be a case of Sowore and his soldiers, as it were, coming out on the streets. And then the whole thing was going to be peaceful, the goal will be accomplished and all of that. But that didn't happen because, recall that Sowore has said, maybe I should say bragged, right, that he was going to come back home with Nnamdi Kanu. I don't know exactly how I mean, what his goal was. I mean, this. There are legal elements in this issue. All right, there's a legal standpoint to the conversation. There's also the political factor you can't take away, and then you have other concerns, including ethnicity. There are those who say it's because it's an Igbo man, Kanu is an Igbo man, but I think that's a pedestrian way to have the conversation, because you must look at what the substance of the matter is. Yeah. All right, this first of all had been an issue that bordered on terrorism, treason, and then later terrorism. So the charges are there, and the federal government, because it's not the kind of the federal government, as lawyers say. So it's not just a man who was picked up randomly. The case is clear: it's terrorism, and the court is saying face the charges, and the man says, I can't face charges on health grounds. The DSS comes up with a report that says Kanu can face charges, and then he can start trial. And then Kanu's legal team also comes up with a report that says his health is not fit or good enough to allow him stand trial. So it becomes a conflicting sort of thing. And the court, in its wisdom, says, okay, let's not allow the pendulum swing. Let's have an independent kind of arrangement, all right, away from what the DSS is saying or what Kanu's legal team is saying, so we can have closure in this regard. It was more like a trial within trial, as they say in court. But in the final analysis, the NMA was ordered by the courts, all right, the Federal High Court, all right. It was Justice Omotosho, all right, John Omotosho, who actually ordered that arrangement. And the NMA did a brilliant work, put up a medical team of experts, and the next thing you know is the result comes in and it says, look, this man's health is good enough for him to stand trial. And then, of course, the conversation has been about, you cannot tell me that someone who has been detained for that long is not sick, he must have traumatic issues, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. The mandate for the the medical team was not to determine whether he was traumatized, whether he had malaria, whether he had loose bowels or not. It was to say, when we saw said and done, when we consider all the variables health-wise, can this man stand trial? And bottom line, summarized was, yes, he can stand trial. Does he have fever? Does he have ulcer or not? Those were not the issues.
Well, I don't know why he doesn't want to stand trial. I mean, you should, it's a court situation.
Right. You have your lawyers.
Bring your lawyers. You understand? It's as simple as that. Right. If you say, I am on my rights, you cannot detain me. Then come up with the evidences and let this be done and dusted already. I think it has lingered for so long.
Too long.
It has lingered for too long. Nnamdi Kanu at this point should, he should be ready to put an end to it. And I think the end of it all is to stand trial.
Yeah.
So let us have you bring up your evidence. Let us have the lawyers do their job, and whatever opposing factor is there, let the job be done. Let this be done and dusted already. And the end to it all is the trial. So I mean, there's no need for the back and forth. The protest, and I don't know why. Well, people have come out to argue that it was not. It's constitutional rights to come out and protest.
Right.
So why is the court coming out to say no?
That's in the case of Nnamdi Kanu.
Why are they coming up with some reason?
Why is it even a court case in the first instance?
Exactly. Why is the court case in the first instance? It is the citizens' constitutional right to come out and protest. I mean, it's a peaceful protest as they claim it would be. So I cannot still understand, and I'm sure a lot of Nigerians cannot understand. I think it is, for me, that's the factor that, just... That's in the case of Nnamdi Kanu. Yes, in the case of Nnamdi Kanu. Why did the court come out to say people, or Sowore, or his soldiers, as you call them, shouldn't come out to protest? All right. People have asked, why has it been held this long? But we need to do a bit of historical background as quickly as possible so that our viewers can also benefit from why we are where we are today. Because whatever is going on, I mean, we are all in this together. Is the reason you couldn't do much yesterday? Is the reason I came late to work yesterday? At least I came to work behind schedule. If there hadn't been a protest, I would come to work my normal time. So we are all in this together. And you also need to look at the fact that this is an embarrassing situation for Nigeria, not just for the government, but also for the people of this great country. Because I mean, look at the footage from yesterday, all right, especially in Abuja. So why are we where we are today? You don't just wake up, Priscilla, and then as a government, all right, you charge an individual with treason. Treason is grave, is huge, is severe. It is different from Afri, which is still fighting, as we call it. It is different from verbal abuse, all right? This is treason. Why was it treason?
The DSS has brought what you want to call preponderance of evidences against him. Part of which is, first of all, videos of you are everywhere on social media. As they say, social media does not forget. Of you inciting people in the Southeast, especially young people. All right, you calling the country zoo. You say Nigeria is a zoo. What do you find in the zoo? Animals. So by extension, we're insulting not just the government, not just the president. We are insulting over 200 million people because you say that these people live in a zoo. And the only people who live in a zoo, or the only things you have in a zoo, are animals. That's number one. Number two is you have consistently, over a long stretch of time, incited people, especially from the southeast of the country, to take to the streets to get violent. And we have seen the carnage that has happened in the southeast, from Ebonyi all the way to Anambra. But of course, we have always had to spotlight Anambra and Imo in particular. All right, there are people who can't go to their village as we speak, not because they offended anyone, just because they are not sure if they will come back alive. You have that. Second, you were running Biafra radio in Nigeria. You got an engineer from a frontline telecom service provider to help you install facility so you could broadcast in Nigeria. The laws are clear. I mean, when broadcasting, you can't operate a radio station or a TV channel in this country without going through the mills, I mean, passing through due process. You must first of all have a company registered with the CAC. You must be licensed by the National Broadcasting Commission, the NBC, and you must be regulated from time to time. And that's the reason you see that even established media houses, radio and television, from time to time, they get sanctioned. We have even seen one or two of them in recent times who had their licenses revoked. And of course, we know the implication of that. If your license is revoked, you can't broadcast. If you do broadcast, you will be charged with treason. Because Nigeria is a sovereign state. People may think there are no laws. You know, people say that out of naivety. They say laws not in Nigeria in pidgin parlance. But you don't want to dare the laws, all right? Because there are laws. You don't want to be the guy who gets caught in that web. So in the case of Kano, these are part of the humongous evidences that the DSS is bringing to the courts. It is a scientific process, Priscilla. So it's not about emotions or sentiments. So the question is, what is the counter evidence that Kanu is bringing? Because the court, for example, or the prosecution, the DSS in this case says, this is you on the 17th of October 2019, for example, say XYZ. This is you on the 16th of March 2020 saying XYZ. These are your posts on Twitter as it then was, now X. This is you, your video on YouTube, 19th of May 2021. So are you expecting the government, a responsible government, with all the paraphernalia of security agencies, to sweep all of that under the carpet? If you do that, what you're saying is other people can come up tomorrow, do the same or even worse, and you've got to let them go. And there are procedures for these things. On a final note, recently the president pardoned 175 people. A good number of Nigerians home and abroad came out and said, no, these cases are different. These are not cases that where the individuals should enjoy pardon. And the government says, okay, that's fine, we're going back to review. After all, this whole thing is not cast in concrete. In any case, as of the time the government made that announcement, those persons had not been released, because the naivety sometimes is to think that because the federal government had announced it, those persons had gone home. No, they were still there. It was just more like a formality. The persons involved, those 175 people, whether they were posthumous or those who are still alive, they have not been released till date. And that's why the federal government can confidently tell you that we're going back to review that list. And when we realize that there had been an error, we will correct going forward. So in the case of Kanu, like you said, that's brilliant. You see, the court process must be exhausted. And the earlier Mr. Kanu subjects himself to trial, the better for not just him, for not just the Southeast, but for Nigeria.
Well, I think the argument from some Nigerians are the fact that, some terrorists have come out, even physically come out to expose themselves. And we've seen the government call for peace in some of these regions. Right? We've seen them call for negotiations.
In fact, we've seen amnesty being proposed.
Yes, we've seen amnesty being proposed. So I think that's the argument that some Nigerians have. Why do you pardon this? What is good for the goose?
Can we not have the same rules for everybody?
Yes, exactly. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So that is the argument that Nigerians are having, concerning the whole Nnamdi Kanu's case. Of course, it is clear, everything is evident that this guy has, until the court decides. But we've seen the reason why he's in court is because something has gone wrong, right?
He's been charged with a very severe crime.
Severe crime. It is okay. That is the due process, and it should be, carried out to the letter. But whatever it is that is done on this part or to this person should also be, reciprocated to the other person. I think that is just the argument.
All right, I'd like us to take a quick break because this conversation is going to be quite extensive, which is normal. We're taking a quick break, everyone, and this is part of the conversation we're having on the show today as part of our big focus. When we return, the rest of Global Morning will come your way. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, so let's move things real quick before we get to you to the papers. Priscilla was making a very salient point just a while ago about amnesty, clemency of some kind. Let's go back to what happened with former President, blessed memory, Musa Yar'Adua, who had come up with the amnesty program for Niger Delta militants back in the day. First of all, the precondition, I remember then, was that they would have to surrender their arms, all right, renounce violence of any kind, renounce agitation, which they did. And then there was a system set up. And that system is still running till today, as far as I know. We have seen people go abroad to school on account of the amnesty program. We've seen people who have learned skills home and abroad, life transforming skills, that is, and things like that. Then now, first of all, there was remorse. They had to surrender their arms. They had to. There was a process to it.
Was there remorse? Was there remorse before the move, before the call for amnesty, or the call for amnesty brought the remorse? The reaction of the amnesty, calling for amnesty, brought about the remorse. Which came first?
In any case, let's start from somewhere. What was the reason you even had agitation in the first instance? These were people who said, "Look, we are the goose that lays the golden egg." If in the manner of speaking, right?
Yeah.
This is Niger Delta. This is where the crude comes from, the black gold, all right? And then our water has been polluted. We can't drink water. Our land has been polluted. So much of degradation all over the place. And then international oil companies, IOCs, are exploiting the whole place. And then, of course, you saw kidnapping happening of expatriates and all of that. We didn't have carnage, if you remember. The facts are still out there. But then the government says, how do we find an end to this? And then you had this issue of, okay, let's do amnesty. Long and short of the story, amnesty came through and it has come to stay till today. And that process is up and running. In the case of the agitation, because where did did we start this whole thing from about the Southeast? It was the idea of saying the Southeast wants to save us from Nigeria. We want to go our way. We want Biafra Republic.
I think it came from the standpoint of, the South is not being given enough.
We are being marginalized.
Yes, being marginalized.
Exactly.
Yes,
and the government continued to say, look, we are working on that, things will get better. Then later the issue of we have not produced presidents exactly also came up.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't produce president by going to a store around the corner to purchase an item. There's a process of producing president. It's like saying, for example, until former President Jonathan came up to become elected president in 2011.
Yeah.
You say, well, the Niger Delta has never produced a president. You must wait for election cycle. You must also ask yourself, isn't there a rotational system, for example? You need to understand all of that. But again, in all, this is not a process that happens overnight.
Yeah.
That's the one. Number two is, even if you say, okay, you are being marginalized and the facts are there, you've never produced a president, do you have to take to arms? Do you have to take up arms to shoot your way through? All right? That's number one. Number two is, there are also some people who have argued that, look, Nnamdi Kanu is not based in the Southeast. He's based out there in the United Kingdom. So he's not the one killing people. He's not the one inciting. I mean, he's not the one, if you like, pushing or goading the unknown gunmen as they have come to be known, even though they are now known in the Southeast. Just yesterday, my guest here, Chief Chibun Obawike, was talking about what in law is called vicarious liability. Where, for example, Priscilla is not on Global Morning. She's not even at work. She's somewhere, let's say, in South Africa. But she's producing Global Morning and giving directives to the Global Morning team. All right? Which means that if anything goes wrong, management can hold Priscilla accountable for the quality of content, for the format of the show, and for the overall outcome, because she's the one giving directives. So the argument by Priscilla that, look, I'm not even in Nigeria at the moment, so how then are you holding me accountable?
Well,
we don't hold water. So, long and short of the story, let's go to the north.
Yes.
Where we're also seeing some sort of amnesty coming up. The governors, because this is not even a federal government arrangement, it is the respective state governments. We have to put these things in context. It is not the federal government that went to the Northeast to say we are pushing for amnesty initiative. It is the respective state governments. We saw that with Katsina state government, for example. We are seeing that with Zamfara state governments, at least before Governor Dauda Lawal came on board. So if you want to have that conversation, it is at the sub-national level. All right? Then you're also asking yourself, in any case, why is it that the governors in the Southeast are not throwing their weight behind Nnamdi Kanu?
Exactly. Maybe it has to do with the whole saying that, I don't know how true it is though, but they usually have the saying that Igbos are not together and all of that. And that is part of the reasons why Nnamdi Kanu is still where he is at this point. Like you have rightly said, the state government actually pushed for these things. But in the case of the Niger Delta,
it was the federal government.
It was the federal government.
Right.
And one thing that is common with all of these cases is the fact that something triggered it.
Right.
Yes, they felt, cheated in a way. It's just like beating the child and telling the child not to cry.
That's the worst form of oppression.
Exactly. So something has caused it. So instead of tackling the result or the effects, why don't we go to the root cause of the matter?
Right.
You get and tackle it from there. Well, this is an ongoing conversation, like you have said, not something that's going to end today,
Right.
Until we see the whole process.
Incidentally, too, like you said, the gentleman, Nnamdi Kanu, is back to court on Thursday, 23rd of this month. Global TV will be at the Federal High Court, and let's see what the hearing, how it's going to turn out. Yeah. All right, we're taking a break at this point, everyone. Next is newspaper review. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, thank you very much for still being here with us. Right now, as usual, we dive straight to the newspapers, and we'll start with the very first paper here, which is the National Star, with the very first story there on page 3. NLC dares federal government over ASU strike, declares no work, no pay. NLC dares federal government over ASU strike, declares no work, no pay, and that is on page 3. Counter false genocide against Nigeria with PR, federal government urges communicators. Counter false genocide against Nigeria with PR, federal government urges communicators. Okay, that is on page 3. I'm wondering how we're supposed to counter it. I mean, we're supposed to have evidence, it's clear evidence. It's not just about coming out to counter a narrative, right? If you say there is no genocide, let us see.
What scientific proof are you bringing forward?
Yes, exactly. So it shouldn't be a word against a word.
Because the person saying there is genocide, what proof do they also have?
Exactly.
It has to be superior argument,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. So, ensure total victory, Soludo charges electorate, targets of 5,720 polling unit. That detail is on page 3. And then we'll go to the big story here, which is on the Free Nnamdi Kanu Now movement. Kanu must face trial, federal government insists. There are 3 riders to that story. The first one says judicial current processes will run its full course. Commuters suffer as security agencies seal FCT over protest. Amnesty International hicks as police tear gas protesters. Commuters arrest MNK's lawyer, brother, journalist. And finally, NPF defends action. Those details are there on page 2. Bruno ambush. Senate seeks enhanced troops protection. That detail is on page 7. Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest ground southeast, and you would find that detail on page 20. Don't use alleged coup plots to silence opposition. ADC cautions federal government. I'd like to see the evidences behind the attempted coup that was published. I don't know. What are the evidences? Because, I mean, it looks like we are in a world battle in this country. Somebody just comes. It's now as if it's my word against your word. We say things without facts. We say things without evidence. And I think, that's...
I was just looking at something over the weekend, Priscilla. This issue around fake news, disinformation and misinformation, right? Yeah. You realize that... We underestimate the power of these elements, especially even those of us in the media, right? Yeah. When there is misinformation, you can say, okay, hold on a second, maybe somebody was not well briefed, maybe somebody didn't have all the details, maybe somebody was in a hurry, so they didn't do a thorough job. However, when there is disinformation, it becomes a plot, it becomes... an agenda, that's the word, right? Because somebody wants to mislead either an individual or an entity, maybe public, maybe private, all right? Because most times that's what we find. We sadly now live in an era where it's no longer about the truth, it's no longer about facts, it's now about narrative peddling. So people do narrative. So I can push a narrative that Priscilla was in Lagos. In fact, I saw her at Ikeja Jare yesterday. The issue going forward is now about how much can I push that narrative. It's no longer about asking, hold on a second, how was she in Lagos? I saw her yesterday morning. We rode together to town, and then We probably were in church in the evenings together. At what point then was she in Lagos? Nobody's asking. Nobody is trying to rationalize. Nobody is bringing their logic to the table. So it just becomes a matter of how often or how consistently can you push the narrative, and how many persons are joining the bandwagon.
Exactly.
That's where we are right now.
Yeah.
So, and it's sad. And it's the reason you keep hearing things like, I've said my truth. He has said his truth. I mean, it just started a few years ago. Growing up, there was never such a term as my truth and their truth. But it's a whole new world now.
Okay, let's just move further. We hope to find our truth.
Our truth, right?
So, incident videos. Kano court orders TikTok to marry within 60 days. I don't know if you've seen this story. There's this TikTok couple. There's a very tall man and one
not very tall lady.
Not very tall lady.
Right.
They're doing skits. I don't know the kind of content they do, like, but they pose as couples, as a couple rather, online. And I think they were arrested. And then the court is now ordering that
they have 6 months to get married. Right.
And this is a very good punishment.
So let the wedding plans begin.
Okay. So we have wicked flags of construction, over 600 bed hostels in Nigerian Law School, Buhari. Oh, that's a good one. Mr. Project is at it again, as they call him. The final detail on page 8. Electoral fraud, Nigeria's biggest democratic threats. You find a detail on page 20. Enugu residents to experience 2 weeks blackouts. This is like a normal thing in Nigeria.
Notice is coming.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that they've been notified before time. Now let's take it to the next paper, which is the Daily Courier. Take us through.
Let's take a look at the Daily Courier for you. What do we have right there? Top of it first, with a picture of the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajero. It says NLC gives MG 4 weeks to resolve tertiary education crisis. That strike is still on by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, and Priscilla is not doing anything about it. All right, then we have a few more here with a picture of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume. Our administration remains accountable to all Nigerians. SGF is the one to whom that is credited. Police defend use of tear gas to disperse free Nnamdi Kanu protesters. Healthcare, NMA seeks comprehensive policy reform. Road crash, death drop nationwide, says FRSC call marshal. We would like to see those numbers too, so that we know exactly where we were and where we are right now. Okay, and then the Star headline says, ADC to federal government, clarify alleged school plots, address Nigerians transparently. And then you have the first writer there, expresses worry about possibility of LG using the coup allegation to silence dissenting voices. Alleges LG using the coup narrative to divert attention from widespread misgovernance, carry public sympathy. Priscilla has already demanded evidence of that coup anyway, so we wait for the federal government's response. Remain steadfast, impartial, incorruptible, dispensing justice. Tinubu charges judiciary. Once the breakdown of any society begins when those entrusted with interpreting its laws become compromised. Says EFCC recorded 7,000 convictions in 2 years, recovered assets in excess of 500 billion naira. That's quite a lot of recovery there. But those are all the headlines from the Daily Monitor. Up next is the Nigerian News Direct.
Okay, Nigerian News Direct. Let's go straight to that with the very first story here. Amnesty International, Showry condemns police clampdown on free Nnamdi Kanu protesters. The ASP police defense action accused protesters of violating court order. Who will judge this case now? And you find that detail on page 15. How weaponization of procedures stop prosecution of high-profile cases. That is coming from the EFCC chairman, and you find that detail on page 15. So To the Star Story, NLC issues 4-week ultimatum to federal government, declares no work, no pay stands. That detail you find on page 2. Kano, Katsina, Jigawa to launch 50 billion naira tri-state electricity markets. You find that detail on page 14. Transcorp Hotels PLC reports 49% revenue growth in Q3 2025. That detail is on page 13. And finally, we have NUPRC remits 6.2 trillion naira to Federation account in 9 months. That detail is on page 10. Let's go to the New Telegraph now.
All right. On the New Telegraph here, the star headline first. It says workers, residents. There's a kicker to it. Free Nnamdi Kanu protests. Workers, residents stranded. The security operatives block Abuja entry, exit points. That headline is loaded with riders. But let's move it a notch higher. Top right corner. Zelensky ready to join Trump-Putin talks after frank White House meeting. Cool scare. ADC warns against opposition witch hunt. PDP crisis. NWC tackles Ayao over signature forgery claim. Federal government targets 20,000 jobs annually as Shettima flags off NUFP 2.0 policy dialogue. And 2 headlines above the name masks. U.S. tariff impasse costs global firms $35 billion. Reports improved revenue from non-oil exports to shrink Nigeria's fiscal deficits. Good news there. And then on the right corner of the front page, Olanipekun urges National Assembly to stop Constitution Amendment, calls for referendum. Reps to classify refineries as strategic national assets. NLC Education Unions Forge Alliance issue federal government 4-week ultimatum to meet demands. One rider says vow to resist government's divide and rule tactics. Timely intervention key to preterm babies' survival. That's according to neonatologists. All right, on page 27, that's where you find those details. You can read about the details when you grab a copy of the New Telegraph today. Let's go to the First Daily now.
All right, on the First Daily, we have the very first story. Bayelsa development transcends politics, and that is coming from Governor Dewey. To the Star Story, Showore leads Free Nnamdi Kanu now protest, defies police ban. There are 2 riders to that. First one, activists storm Abuja streets as Kanu's brother lawyer allegedly beaten, arrested. APC Onanuga calls protest political stunt. PDP denies forgery claims, says Ayao signed convention letter. Naira steadies officially plunges to 1,500 naira on parallel market. Boko Haram ambush kills army commander, dozens of soldiers in Borno. And there's a rider to that says military launches sweeping counter offensive. EFCC secures 700 convictions, 500 billion naira asset recoveries. Shettima, that's coming from Shettima. Global outage disrupts major apps as Amazon Web Services software breakdown. Ex-Enugu Governor Nwodo warns federal government Nnamdi Kanu must not die in custody. And finally, we have ASU strike. NLC gives federal government 4-week ultimatum. Okay, that will be all for the First Daily. We'll go to the next paper, which is this the paper.
All right, so let's run quickly to this day newspaper for you. What is the first headline we have here? Let's look at that on this day.
Is it drop?
Okay, well, we're going to look at quickly, yes, we have this day now, and here he says, above the nameplate of it, this day newspaper, it says, a recap of IMF World Bank meetings, Uzoka Anite says global partners excited, I should say, with Nigeria's reforms on this day newspaper. All right, it says, a recap of IMF World Bank meetings, Uzoka Anite says global partners excited with Nigeria's reforms. Sounds like good news. Moving on, Army mourns officers, soldiers killed on duty. Senate pledges stronger support. And still on this day newspaper, top right corner, just beneath the name mast, France announces 410 million euro deal with Lagos to enhance waterways transportation. All right, the big one, Tinubu, no person or group can accuse us of shielding anyone from law. What are the riders? Urges judiciary to be steadfast, impartial, incorruptible. Discloses EFCC records 7,000 convictions, recovers 500 billion naira in 2 years. Those will be our headlines from this day newspaper. But we'll move things up now. We'll find that we have the Guardian newspaper as well. Right.
Okay, so on the Guardian newspaper, the very first story there, of course, has a kicker. Free Nnamdi Kanu. Chaos, police disperse Abuja protesters. Southeast shuts down for Kanu. Okay, I don't know if the police also, affected their protests in the Southeast there. We don't have any of that story, but this is what it says here. Let's go to the next story. NSAS, police reforms linger as Nigerians demand justice 5 years after. That detail is on page 6. NARD strike looms as 30-day ultimatum to federal government enters final week. Everyone is giving the ultimatum. You find that detail on page 3. We don't want, 2 sectors to be shut down. So it's important for the federal governments to quickly attend to all of this agitation. Nigeria under sustained attack from foreign propaganda, says federal government. That detail is on page 3. Sustained momentum, Tinubu tells judges as EFCC nets 500 billion naira, convicts 7,000. And you find that detail on page 5. Resolve disputes with ASU or face nationwide strike. NLC warned the federal government. That detail is on page 5. Nigeria needs new constitution, not amendments. Olani Beku tells NAS. I kind of agree with him though. You find that detail on page 5. Teenager arrested for allegedly removing sister's eyes for money ritual. That detail is on page 9. Union Nimet workers vow aviation sector shuts down today over poor wages. You find that detail on page 5 as well. Those are your headlines for the Guardian newspaper. Read up for more details. Let's go to the Vanguard, right?
Yes, so we're going to go to the Vanguard by all means. But you see this headline about a teenager who has been arrested for allegedly removing her sister's eyes for money ritual. It's disturbing. I can almost feel goosebumps, all right, so welling up on my skin because this is your sister.
The teenager.
Going by this report, yes. By the way, the details are on page 8 of the Guardian newspaper, all right? Removing sister's eyes for money ritual, not out of being violent for the sake of violence. This is somebody with an objective to make money. And the way he or she saw fit to make that money was to remove someone's eyes, and that person happens to be your own sister. You didn't have to learn a skill, you didn't have to go back to school or go to school from scratch.
Go back to school. That's going to school.
You didn't have to apply for you didn't have to apply for a job.
Yeah.
You didn't have to even reach out to people to seek support.
Yeah.
You had to pluck out someone's eyes.
It's sad.
Let's just say enough said already. Those details are from the Guardian newspaper, page 8. But let's look at the Vanguard newspaper for you at this point, everyone, as we begin to tie it up. Nigeria's net domestic credits drops by 12.8% to 1.97 trillion naira. Right, top left of the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Don't use coup plots to silence opposition, ADC warns federal government. We are shielding no ally, EFCC recovered 500 billion naira in 2 years. That's credited to President Bola Tinubu. Imami faults usage of Warri Kingdom by non-Ishikiri monarchs. All right, that looks like a domestic problem. Nnamdi Kanu, Abuja grounded a security men tear gas protesters. You can see at least about half a dozen riders with that headline. Southeast shuts down in free Kanu protests on page 11. NLC gives federal government 4 weeks to resolve education sector crisis. Says no pay, no work as ASU, SANU, NASU, others unite for action. Okoye remains Udinese's numero uno goalkeeper. Wow, that's quite emphatic. Unite to defeat the evil APC has become Olawekbo Hashim tells Nigerians. Okay. Well, you can look up all of these details from the Vanguard newspaper today. Let's go to The Nation now, where we have our next set of headlines.
All right, on The Nation newspaper, top left corner, we have police to arraign 8 arrested free Kanu protesters, and that detail is on page 3. The funny thing is, with all these protests, most times Nigeria, we're carried away with, we're carried away by the protest itself. We don't know that there are people that are actually arrested, and most times they spend even years in prison or cell, forgotten as a result of going for protests. And these persons are usually not highlighted to the society, or they're not, we don't get to know about it. They're silently rotting in jail as a result of joining protests. So this is to say that you need to be careful. Yes, if you want to even embark on a protest, make sure that you have a good source of friends or family that can actually come out to speak about you. Peradventure you get missing or detained by a policeman, because I tell you the truth, a lot of them, after protests, spend years
unaccounted for.
Right. So let's go to the next story. EFCC recovers assets worth 500 billion naira in 2 years. The question is, what do we do with all these assets recovered? There's a rider to that. 7,000 convictions secured. 12,983 Unilorin students get 1.6 billion naira NELFund loan, and that is on page 5. FIRS RMAFC initiates recovery of hidden funds. You find that detail on page 1 and 5 respectively. Anambra 2025, there are 3 riders to that. Remain vigilant with your votes. Soludo tells supporters. INEC to conduct mock accreditation tomorrow. Criminalize vote buying, Onsu canvasses. Those details are on page 7 of The Nation newspaper. So the big story here, Constitution needs overhaul, not amendment, and that is coming from Olani Bekum. And there's a rider to that says, Legal Giant urges National Assembly to halt ongoing unworkable processes. We have a minister, Alausa, our reform impacting education positively. Well, I think we need to hear from the masses to attest to that.
Right.
You signed the letter to INEC, PDP fires back at Anyang. That detail is on page 2, right? So you want to read up those stories. Finally, we have I won't quit PDP for APC, says Adeleke. That detail is on page 5. Senate minority leader loses son and grandson. That is on page 4. That's a sad one there. And that is all we have for you.
All right, so let's go look at our last paper this morning, away from The Nation newspaper. Now, the next one here. Let's see what we have. Okay, I think, that appears to be our final paper. But do look at the Punch. No, we didn't look at the Punch newspaper this morning. So let's run to the Punch and make it our last paper. Okay, above the nameplate, it says ADC was against political witch hunt in coup probe. adjacent to the nameplates. Labour gives FG 4 weeks to end varsity crisis. Free Nnamdi Kanu. Protests wave hits Abuja, paralyzes southeast states. Then the writer tells us Abuja protesters tear gas to Villa, fortified federal workers barred, southeast locked down. And then at the bottom of it, bottom right precisely, Oshino be honored by family, clergy, media giants at 70th birthday Thanksgiving. Arraignment of Obi of Lagos, others stalled. National Assembly mourns army commander, soldiers killed by Borno terrorists. Okay, that's the Punch newspaper for you, and that's how we call it a wrap on the newspaper review segment for you this morning. As always, we encourage you to read details so you can avoid misinformation and disinformation. Remember too that Global Television or the team here at Global Morning does not in any way contribute to these papers, whether the headlines or their details. When we return, we'll put our conversations on the road for you. Do stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, so our conversation here continues on Global Morning. Quite a number of things we should be looking at this point in time in our country. A while ago, Priscilla and I were looking at the papers, and we just saw a replication of the ASU strike, what Labour is threatening, how that other unions within the university space are joining in solidarity. And then, of course, on the other hand, the Senate is wading in to find, some sort of harmony or closure as quickly as possible. But we seem to forget, too, that the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, had given the federal government a 30-day ultimatum as well. And that 1 month ultimatum notice has now entered its final week. Yeah. So the question is, what happens if it cycles out and then nothing is done in response?
So there seems to be, an item or a list of items waiting for the federal government to respond to.
Right.
And I don't know the hopes that ASU has right now. If the resident doctors, National Association of Resident Doctors, have not gotten the feedback, what is the hope that ASU will get a quick response? I mean, are they going to be left with another 30-day circle or 30-day ultimatum? So
everybody is seeking the federal government's attention.
Everyone is seeking the federal government's attention, and then we're seeing reports of presidents making statements about how EFCC is working, how this is working, how the economy, Naira is stabilizing, and all of that. And we're wondering, most times that we see what we see on papers, is it that it doesn't translate into the reality of the lives we live? We see lots of news, we see exciting texts on papers in the media. We just hear it as news. But when we want to translate it to the reality of what we have right now, it doesn't seem to tally, it doesn't seem to match. Right. So it goes back to the whole, thing I started talking about. We need to put out things with evidences. You cannot just come out and say, this is working. Let us see empirical facts. Let us see the fact. Let us see you line up, evidence that this is what is making this work. Because it is more like we are on that. Nigerians are just they're waiting for information, and our leaders feel like they can always feed us whatever it is that tickles our ears or tickles our fancy and would start to run with it. But it is not the reality of the existing facts. It is not our reality. So they need to do better. That's basically what I'm saying. The country is where it is. It is not smiling. A lot of Nigerians are not happy. But they are sold ideas, or they are sold whatever ideologies, or I don't want to call it ideologies, but then they are giving information that makes it look as if you guys chill with this, you guys hold on with this. It is not the reality. That's what I'm just trying to say. Are we being lied to? Who is that person that would confirm that this is the truth?
How do we measure progress?
How do we measure the progress? Do you get how we measuring the progress? What all those facts that are being said to us? Let me call it facts. All these things, information that are being put out to Nigerians. How do we measure that it is actually true?
For example, Anisha came up. I mean, you're making a brilliant point, and it just sparked something in my head. Anisha came up recently, where the state government said that it had built, I think it was 6,000 schools. It said, of course, the opposition, the PDP, came roaring, as always, what a typical opposition would do under such circumstance. And the PDP's point was very simple and straight to the point. It says, can you just let us know the names of this school and where they are located within the state? You don't have to take us there. We'll go there and verify by ourselves, all right? And then, of course, a new commissioner for education has just been appointed by the governor. Yes, a certain Dr. Paddy. And people say they expect he's going to do a great work. You've seen people who have, who seem to repose a lot of confidence in him. But that singular statement put out by the government that so and so number of schools have been built has already from the get-go made the commissioner's job difficult. Because you see, we live in 2025 and it will be foolhardy, so to speak, to expect that people will take your word hook, line and sinker. Take it on face value just because you said it. You know, the mentality of it was said by the governor, it was said by the minister, it was the Senate president that said it, it was the VC, the vice chancellor. People have moved past that now. It is not so much about who has said it, as it is about the veracity, the authenticity of what has been said. And that's why people fact check. That's why people double check. And that's why even media houses that are responsible know that you can't just take a piece of news, all right, to the public without first of all doing due diligence to be double sure that Priscilla's surname is Obasi. So you don't go to town already before you realize that she has a different name. So what it means is that politicians, and indeed the political class and those who have the privilege, as I'd like to call it, of service, whether you've been elected or appointed, must realize that if you have built just a town hall as a local government chairman, be humble enough, be human enough, be sincere enough, all right, and be responsible enough to come to the people and say, look, for XYZ reasons, we have been constrained. However, here is what we have been able to do: one town hall. In any case, going forward in the next 18 months or 2 years, we intend to build a school and build a market, then grade 1 road. Those are the things we can do. You see, in politics, all we look at is the optics. We say we're looking at the optics. How would people perceive it? How will it affect my chances in the next election? What we do not realize is that we're first human beings before we are politicians. And people will not judge you by how much you are able to politic. They will judge you by the impact you made, whether it was negative or positive, all right? Because in the final analysis, I'm sure every right-thinking citizen will have so much of respect for a man who was able to build only one primary school and he never lied about it. That the one who said he built 10 primary schools, he built 2 universities,
for so amount of
money, and then eventually, by the time even the average citizen goes to do their fact-checking, they realize that it was all a bunch of lies the entire time. These are two distinct scenarios, and politicians must realize that there is life after politics and there is life after office. Absolutely.
And talking about strikes, I think these agencies, these sectors need to come up to find other, ways of tackling whatever it is their grievances are. Because when that's the unions. The unions, yes. Because when you make your solution to be strike, you're not talking to the government. The truth of the matter is, after going on strike...
So you're saying government hardly listens to strikes? They don't listen,
because how many of these politicians have their students, or their children rather, in public universities?
So it almost doesn't impact them.
It doesn't impact them. You're impacting the masses. We are the ones that get to suffer from it. You get so, and then the National Association of Resident Doctors, deciding to go on a strike. Who does it affect? Our politicians that rarely uses, our facility here. It doesn't make sense that you are trying to talk to them and you are inflicting whatever pain, on the citizens that you are saying you're fighting for. So I don't know whatever other way they need to go about this, but this is definitely not the solution. Strike is not the solution, to whatever result they want to get at the end of it all.
Priscilla, I spoke, I can remember it was in 2019 that we started having these very nasty strikes again. So I spoke with a man who at the time, professor who was the chairman of ASU in a particular federal university. And one of the questions I posed to him was, let's ask ourselves quite frankly, can we not have alternatives to strikes? Can we not have some sort of dialogue, some sort of alternative disputes resolution mechanism beyond, away from strike? The man said, look, that there are protocols that unions use when negotiating with governments at whatever level. That strike is the very last down the road. All right. So by the time you see a union go on strike, you know that all the other options, practically every other option has been exhausted. Yes. So by way of saying, look, we are at a crossroad now. We would not know where to go from here. Just hopefully this will get your attention. We're going on strike. And that's when we realized that in 2009, the strike ran for about 8 months, which was almost an academic session. And whether the government listened or not, we can't really tell. But we do know that there was an agreement that's emanated on account of that strike. And that agreement, 16 years down the line, is still a bone of contention between the federal government and the academic staff union of universities.
So the question is, why is it that at the end of the whole action, industrial action, they hold on to an agreement? You get, is it that at the end of the day, it doesn't say some kind of, what do I call it now? Some kind of solution is given that doesn't benefit, say, the whole union. Maybe some set of members get to benefit from it, and maybe the leaders of the union get to benefit from it, and at the end of the day, they just decide to, pedal down, or they decide to just call off the strike because they have benefited from it. What is the goal of the strike?
I get the point. What exactly is the conversation that led to that decision to call off the strike?
Exactly. And at the same time, too, I must ask this question because I was with the ASU chairman, Abuja chapter, the other day. And I asked questions like, what are we fighting for? Are we fighting for ourselves or fighting for the system? Because if we're fighting for the system, we need to consider students. We need to consider students' welfare. I'm only talking about ASU members' pockets, our salaries. Is it the our welfare? Because if that is the situation, then I don't think it calls for strike. If we're talking about the system, he makes points about how that the action has impacted the university system, the structures, and I ask questions like where does TED Fund come into all of this? You get all of these agencies, how do they work hand in hand? Because we've seen TED Fund come out to say they do stuff. We've seen them do
infrastructure,
all of that. So what is
scholarships?
What is the fight for? We have the federal government coming out to say, okay, they want to give students loans. What is ASU saying about it? If I go to collect a loan and at the end of my academic session or at the end of my schooling, I do not have a job, how do I pay this loan? So are we fighting a good cause is the question. Are we fighting for our pockets? Are we fighting for the system? Are we fighting for the student? Because if you say, I am fighting for this, I think the students will actually be in support of whatever it is, and they would understand. But we don't go out to say we're striking or we're fighting for our pockets and the students get to suffer, which, at the end of the day, they don't even get to benefit from whatever it is you are striking for. So the sincerity of purpose, like we always say on the show, is what we should look at. Whatever it is, if you're fighting for a good cause, I think at the end of the day, it will be, it will be beneficial. It will be something that was worthy of doing. We don't waste our academic years, fighting for a futile reason that doesn't benefit a system, because we come back to that system and it's still decaying. We come back to that system and nothing is growing. We come back to that system and at the end of wasted academic years, it only benefits the lecturers. Let it be for a good cause, and if it is for that good cause, I think it doesn't. At the end of the day, it is for everybody. So I would support that.
Again, as spectacularly put together by Priscilla, it's very clear that no nation on earth, including Nigeria, can progress unless, of course, we get it right with certain critical sectors: health, education, infrastructure, of course, the economy and things like that. Let's take a quick break, everyone. When we return, so much more to talk about in this regard. Do stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily, while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily, while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, so let's push the conversation further, everyone. Just a while ago, we're talking about the education sector, especially from the standpoint of the lecturers, the academic staff, as they are generically called. And off the camera, Priscilla and I were having a bit of a chit chat, and one of the things that came up was, is it not possible for lecturers to be empowered in such a way that we can see research outcomes in concrete results? All right. For example, if you have a researcher in a particular scientific field, right, we've got to see over time what they've been able to come up with in terms of concrete, measurable, results. All right. We need to see that. It's not enough for you to be a professor of chemistry. What exactly are you doing? Is it bath soap we're saying? Is it detergent?
Yes.
Is it a toilet cleaner? Is this something for the skin that has been duly approved by the regulatory authorities? We must see all of those. We must see ideas in concrete terms that can be commercialized, that can become big word, ubiquitous, which means it's available everywhere, that you can say it was Professor XYZ, right, that came up with this idea, and this is the product that became more like a brainchild of that idea, and you can find it in stores or designated outlets across the country, across the sub-region, or even across the continent and worldwide. We need to get to see all of that. But again, the question is, are the universities and the lecturers themselves empowered enough? Do they have the resources to do that? President, let's tell ourselves the truth. Researches are very expensive.
Well, I think if the fight is geared towards that angle,
you mean
if you come up with strikes to see
the face-off between the federal government and ASUU.
You want to see, put on the table, say, we want to have research centers, we want to have industries in universities. This is the goal. But most times, what we see them coming out to fight, federal government, it's usually, you have not paid us this, you have not paid, you don't pay us this. If we have, a visionary, say, a goal, or say we put up such structures and say, federal government we want you to empower us to be able to create structures, say create companies in universities. Students studying courses, say microbiology, will be able to go into this industry to practicalize, to bring out results that will be useful to the society. And we say, okay, you guys empower us to be able to put up such structures, such facilities in this school. That fight will be very sensible. And I think the government would, somehow, they would not doubt, they would want to support because it is sensible. But if the fight is just, you guys promised us last year, you're going to pay us, you have not paid us, there's no, it's just about my pocket.
Remuneration.
When the ASUU chairman came here, I asked him a question. I said, are there facilities, if the government peradventure say, okay, we're going to pay you guys this, what are you guys giving back to the government? What economy are we trying to create that will benefit the system? If you guys come from that standpoint to the government and say, if you give us this, we can create a structure that we can still, remit funds to the government. I don't think they would delay till this point.
Right.
So the fight has to be an intentional one. It has to be a creative one. They should go away from the whole, you guys promised us last 10 years, you have not paid. So come up with ideas to say, okay, we want you to support this so that we can create an economy that will benefit the system.
That's quite what should be the case. Again, these are critical areas, education and health, where massive, big, huge, humongous investments are required. And that's why every year, most of us, what we do is we'll see the budgetary pattern or proposition from the executive. We want to look at, first of all, what do we have for health? What do we have for education? Before you move on to things like infrastructure, you want to look at defense, housing, and others. Because whether you like it or not, people have to be alive to think about anything else. I mean, we have to be alive, for example, in fact, alive and healthy. It's one thing to be alive, it's another thing to be healthy.
Yeah.
All right, to do your work, to complain and grumble and rant and do all of the things that you need to do. That's first for health. And then people need to have their minds reformed, all right, their minds sensitized. People need to have their minds expanded. And one way to do that is education. And one structure we have created over time is the formal education system. Yes, we can stay here all night and argue, debate about what kind of education works better or best. Formal education, decentralized education, informal education, blah, 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 or self-taught kind of education. But in all, we must have a system that helps to direct us along the right path. And to have that, we must also have a structured kind of framework, so to speak, where we continue to drive innovation, which is of course powered by investment. Look at the 2025 budget, which again is a subject of controversy already because it has been implemented alongside 2024 budgets, by the way. Economists to help us throw more light on that. But the point is, if you look at the 2025 budgets, look at it all the way down to maybe 5 years before, what has been the trajectory in terms of what we invest in education? It's very small. I don't want to say insignificant, all right? Because, yes, people have said UNESCO is not the owner of Nigeria. UNESCO cannot dictate to Nigeria and by extension any other country what to invest in education. Because UNESCO's recommendation is 26% of your annual budget. In other words, if your budget for this year is 50 trillion for 2026, it means that ultimately 26% of that entire budget bulk should be for education. Whatever you do with the rest is on you. But be sure, UNESCO is not forcing it down your throat, of course. Nigeria is a sovereign state. But what it's saying is that whatever you're giving to education has got to be the lion's share. Look at countries that have made, if you like, leapfrogged development over time, all right? Whether it's India, whether it's Singapore, whether it's Brazil, look at what they've done with the education system in the last 20 years. So when you say we want to be, Vision 2020, and then later Vision 2020, now we have Vision 2030, including the $1 trillion economy, objective and all of that. It means that you must be deliberate, you must be intentional with your education, whether it's elementary, secondary, or tertiary. I remember when I got into secondary school, I was given a prospectus. It was a public secondary school. I got a prospectus because up until that time, I'd always see prospectus given to my older ones who went to university. But this was a secondary school. I got a prospectus. And a lot of persons cannot relate today that you were gaining admission into a secondary school, a public secondary school, and you were given a prospectus. Right there on the field of that school, having seen my admission status, number 512, I sat down. Yeah, I still remember that. I sat and I read, and I was blown away when I saw a page where it said that you could decide as a secondary school pupil to end your secondary education at JS3, that's class 3, and then decide to pursue a skill path. Like, wow. So when I look back today, what it teaches me, what it tells me is that Nigeria was once at a point where people didn't have to fall over themselves to go to university. And that's when I realized that today, there are people who go to university for 1 million reasons. Not because they want to be able to build capacity and competence to drive change from their little corner. They want to do that for status. How can Priscilla be a degree holder, be a bachelor's degree holder, and me, I know gets. That's the mentality. But again, is that not the system we've created?
Well, it is the system we've created because we have created a system such that if you do not have a degree, you don't have a voice. If you don't have if you're not a professor, if you're not a doctor, right now, you see people going. You see people buying doctorate degrees now. The
emphasis on buy.
Yes, if people buy doctorate degrees now just for the status, and if you check them out, I don't want to say they are nothing to write about, but the depth.
Their outcomes don't match.
It doesn't match.
Yeah, that's
So,
academic.
These are the standards.
conference.
Exactly. These are the standards we've set. I'm talking about the system, the university system. Now, I feel like these politicians, you know, it looks like no. Let's ask the ASU, the ASU representatives that you know deliberated with the government, say 2009. Are they the same persons there now? We don't want to. I don't want to say yes, and I don't know for sure. But it kind of looks like every decade, or yes, maybe every decade, one person goes to the table to deliberate benefits and leaves. Another set comes, and truly, if you look at things critically, the president. Let me just put it that way. Our leaders at the presidential level. They know when it is that you are deliberating, you are deliberate about a thing. If I come to the president and say, these are my facts, this is what I do, the sincerity of purpose, it is evident, you know, through my conversations, you're able to know if I really mean what I want to do, what I'm talking about. But somehow I don't feel like they perceive that these guys are just, let's go and strike. These guys that you're going to deliberate, they know, they kind of know that this is why you're coming. Because the money we are paying you guys have expired, so you guys want to renew. This is now your turn to collect, and when you collect, you leave. After a while, the next guys feel like almost been a while.
So the cycle
continues. What if I come to you guys and say, okay, we want to change the system, we want to restructure. We are coming with a different thing because. They come this year again. They say they are referencing 2019. You're not adding anything to it.
Yes.
You are not restructuring the. You're not adding anything to it.
Yes.
You are not restructuring the list of items you're bringing to the table. You're just referencing what has changed. Do you mean to tell me that from 2009 till now, you guys have not decided to add something? You know, to make our system better.
Who is that question for? The federal government or the union?
The union. Problems have not. You guys have not solve the last problem. You guys, it's normal, or it is natural that new problems will emerge. So if you are telling me that at 2025 you guys have not seen any new problems, it's just the old problems, it looks like you are just coming to collect something. That list needs to be updated. Problems. It looks like you are just coming to collect something. That list needs to be updated.
Why are you sounding like you're a member of the federal government delegation?
No, because it is natural.
Sounding like you're a member of the federal government delegation.
No, because it is natural. In life, the problems you had 5 years ago is not the problem you're having in this current time of your life. So if you are coming to say a helper to say, I want you to solve my problem, and you are representing the problem you had 5 years ago, something is wrong somewhere. It is not natural. So it is just natural that things have changed.
Right.
New problems. It is just natural that things have changed.
Right.
New problems have emerged, and you bring an update. This is where we want to take it to. We don't want that old goal we had. We want a better goal.
Right.
This is the goal. If that is not the case, then something is wrong, if you ask me.
Okay, I think the challenge we have on our hands going forward is to now figure out what exactly is wrong. Who is not saying the whole truth or not saying the truth at all? What exactly is that truth? And then ultimately, what model have we chosen today? Priscilla, exactly 8 days ago, I sat down here and I had a 37-minute conversation with the Vice Chancellor of the University of Jos. Even though we're here to talk about NUGA, the Nigeria Universities Games, we also took out time at the twilight of our conversation to talk about Nigeria's tertiary education system, all right? And he made a point, said, look, I've seen both sides of the coin, all right? I've done this in the UK, I'm doing it in Nigeria now. He said there's something fundamentally wrong with our funding model. And one of the things I got from that conversation was that education is not cheap. It may be affordable, these are two different factors. It's not cheap. Somebody has got to fund it. Even if a state governor anywhere in the world, including Nigeria, says, we're giving free education or we're offering free education, the government is obviously paying for it, or the government has entered into some sort of PPP arrangement or some public-private partnership arrangements that allows that education to be free for Priscilla and we. However, the payment for it comes from somewhere. The issue has been who pays for it, and government has been evading that for a long time. In fact, we are now beginning to question, back in the day when we said we had free education, was it really free? What was the definition of free in that context. And if it was truly free, I mean free indeed, how come it's not free anymore? What has changed? Is it because of explosion in population? Is it because government has become far less sincere? Is it because there has been a depletion of our resources, or funding has dropped significantly? What exactly has changed over time? In Nigeria today, for example, I remember when there was strike in 2009, that's in strike, right? There were parents who pulled their children away from Nigeria, not to the UK, not to the US, not to Canada, not to Australia, not to Germany, to countries within Africa, some of them to a place as close as Ghana, Benin Republic, and the Gambia, right? So what does that tell you? It tells you that parents, yes, may grapple with the challenge of funding their children's education. But ultimately, they're also very concerned about the pace, the progress of that education, that system. Because at the end of the day, it traumatizes both the students and their parents and guardians to know that a course that's supposed to run for 4 academic sessions, which is less than 4 calendar years, is not going to run for 6 years, or in some cases longer, just because of closure after closure after closure. In Nigeria, universities are closed down either because there's ASU strike, or because there's a NASU strike, or because there's a SANU strike, and then there are times we have issues around cultism, schools are shut down. All of these contribute to the change in our calendar, and that's why you realize that most times Nigerian schools are not, as we speak right now, Nigerian schools are not using the same academic calendar. It's just a question of let's get done and be dusted. And then you hear things like, in my set, when we were graduating, we couldn't do defense because the department said there was no time.
Yeah, as part of the questions I asked the ASU chairman the other day, I said he made mention of the fact that he said ASU makes sure that the academic calendar is, is rounded up, it's finished. They touch it to the fullest. And I'm like, how do you guys ensure that after the strikes, you guys ensure that every student is taught what they need to be taught? Their calendar is, exhausted. And he wasn't really able to give me any, detailed methods to how they go about these things. But at the same time, see what we talk about, you just come out to say, their calendar is exhausted, and students are complaining.
And then let's dig into the facts.
You're not digging into it. It's the same thing we're talking about. And they're talking about how education is, not free. And we go to schools, sometimes you're asked to pay for certain things, and what you're asked to pay for doesn't even make sense. Why not channel this payment to something that is beneficial? Because at the end of the students still get to pay. You tax them. You're not, aside the school fees we get to pay. I did an entrepreneurship course when I was in 500 level, and guess what? We just came out to read. There was no practicality. We just came out to present. What was the entrepreneurship about? There was no practicality whatsoever. We just told, go and we are doing it on this subject. We just come out to read about entrepreneurship. Is entrepreneurship about reading?
Which was, I was better than you. I did entrepreneurship in my 3rd year. At least we had to go to real life businesses, carry out researches, ask questions. Something that was.
Produce anything.
Well, we didn't produce, but like I said, the benchmark is I did better than you.
Okay, you did better than me.
Yes.
But now, what is the better? If we measure it, what is
between you and I is better. But I know you're saying that ultimately should have been such that you produce something.
Yes.
No matter what it is, even if it's confectionery.
Exactly.
Right.
No matter how small, it is the practicality in entrepreneurship that is entrepreneurship. It is not
because it's a hands-on thing.
It's a hands-on thing. So these are the things we talk about. You tell students pay for this, but what are they paying for? Because I think these lecturers have a way of extorting students. They kind of, I don't want to say transfer aggression, but somehow they feel like there's a way to get the money back. If it's not coming from here, there's a way we come from here.
Actually, the ones for teacher.
Exactly. So if you are telling them to pay for stuff, let it be that I'm actually investing in my future. I'm paying for something that will benefit me in the long run, and I'll be happy that I pay. Because at the end of the day, we leave school and we still go to pay for these things outside there. You go and pay to learn this. You still pay for courses, subtle courses. You get courses, So why, if you're telling me to pay for a thing, please, I'm ready to pay, but teach me. Let me get the actual knowledge of what I'm paying for.
You see, these things you're saying, it becomes even painful now, right? Because you realize that in this day and age, education as we know it has evolved very radically. People are now learning different ways. We're now seeing online MBAs becoming popular. Nobody cares whether it was online, whether it was virtual.
Yes.
What they want to know ultimately is what knowledge has been added to your knowledge base on account of that particular 1 year or 18-month MBA that you did online, that you did virtually, or whatever it is.
And funny enough, you actually get the knowledge.
Right, because of the quality of resource persons, the kind of methodology that's been adopted, is a paradigm shift away from the conventional MBA that you go to class every other day, the lecturer is abroad, you can't look at your project work, the lecturer cannot do his parts just because he's angry with the system. Lecturers are angry with the system. Let's not go there.
So at the end of the day, I would also advise it is at the end of the day, you see that it's better to go and do some professional course out there after school than going to even get a master's degree. You're going to waste your time, you're going to waste your resources, because advancing your education, you get to spend more. Like it kind of looks like those lecturers know that you don't have the time, so they want to extort everything they can extort from you. They know that you're busy with work. So
you want to wrap it up as quickly as possible.
And all of that. But at the end of the day, I tell you the truth, the knowledge you want to get, you might not even get. So somehow
all you're going to end up with is the paper.
It's just the paper. It's just the paper. So it's not better to sit in my computer for 3 months. I know I'm doing a course, I'm following it back to back intensively. And at the end of 3 months, I know I'm done. You get the actual knowledge from all of those online stuff. So our education system is actually being watered down. And this is not about ASU.
Right.
Really. It is not an ASU thing.
It's not about the strikes.
It's not about the strikes. I tell you the truth. Let them give them whatever they want to give them. Give it to them in full. Let ASU call up the strike tomorrow. How does it affect? What gets better in the system? Let us follow it. The government should say, okay, we're going to give you guys this, but we're going to follow it through to see that the change you guys are saying will come, will actually come.
Well, I was just going to give a thought to recommending Priscilla as a special consultant to the Federal Ministry of Education, but maybe that's a conversation we'll have at another time. Let's take a quick break now. The rest of the morning returns shortly. Do stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road